Hello my friends, William Poloniak here again from Whole Health Foundation. Today I'm making a juice with baby beets, wild dandelion, and a few other ingredients. Now you can't buy wild dandelions, you have to go for a walk in your neighborhood and pick them. Just make sure you pick them from an area where they're not spraying with pesticides. Let's look at the rest of my greens and the rest of my ingredients. In addition to my baby beets and my wild dandelion, I have broccoli leaves and red Swiss chard, carrots of course, 130 grams of turmeric, 80 grams of ginger, and 1 full head of garlic. So let's make some juice. Now before I make juice, I'm going to plug in my thermometer, and I want to point out that I'm using the near zero blowback cutter and the front loading feed tube. And one of the beautiful things about the front-loading feed tube, it's ergonomically comfortable. You can push in your produce from the front rather than push and pull down from the top. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in 3 ice cubes to cool down the cutter and the feed tube. I'm going to start with baby beets. Now because the cutter does such an excellent job, you're going to be tempted to put in a lot of greens. Don't do that. Less greens is more effective. So we'll start with the baby beets. More baby beets. Roots, leaves and all. Greens are very fibrous, so you need to clean your grid often. And the best way to clean your grid is to put it in the palm of your hand like so and scrape off from both sides. Now this is a much better method than holding it like this. Put it in the palm of your hand, scrape it on both sides, clean the pulp off your knife, reassemble and continue. And we'll continue now with red Swiss chard, but first I'm going to put in 3 ice cubes because those greens made my temperature go up. Swiss chard. Look how well that cutter is doing, just like a hot knife through butter. Rotate. More Swiss chard. Remember, less produce is more effective. Remember, you're going to be tempted to put in more greens, but resist the temptation. Less greens is more effective. Now, I notice a little puddle of green juice here, so what I'm going to do is feed some carrots in and allow the pulp to come out to absorb this juice. Carrots absorbs juice very, very well. Slow, steady pace, no need to rush. We're up to 23 degrees, so 2 more ice cubes. Here's the last of my dandelion, and next I'm going to switch to carrots. But first, 2 more ice cubes. And then I'm going to clean my grid and continue with carrots. Notice how I have the grid in the palm of my hand, and then clean off both sides of the knife. Replace the grid and continue. Now we'll continue with carrots. Check my wing nuts again. Vibration makes them get loose. Put in a few more carrots. Now normally you put the large end of the carrot in first. here's the last of my carrots. Now, one of the beautiful things about the front-loading feed tube is you can actually see in here, and I can see there's a little bit of carrot in there that's not shred, so I'm putting some pulp in here, and I'm going to force that last little plug through. And the next step is to clean the grid holder, the feed tube, and the cutter, and mix your produce and make some juice. The next step will be to mix the produce with the greens, but first I've taken the cloths out of the freezer, and it's a good idea to crack it on both sides of the countertop to loosen it up, and then unfold the cloths that we're going to let thaw here temporarily, and then we'll unfold them, put them on top of the pulp, and then start making some juice. But first, mix the carrots with the greens, rotating the bowl in both directions. If you have carrots in your pulp, you do not need to use bamboo liners. Carrots in the pulp will not stick to your cloths, but if you're doing fruit juice or greens only, you definitely need bamboo liners. After you unfold the cloths, put them in the collection container and pull it forward so that the flaps hang over the edge of the counter. Sanitation is very, very important, so less contact with the counter the better. 3 scoops inside each cloth, and we're going to press 2 cloths full at one time because we'll get better pressure that way. So as they came packaged, flatten it, pull it in thirds, like I said, as they came packaged. A little crease here to make it easier to fold. Then with your fingers, you're going to pull that forward into a tight package. Let's do a close-up of that. And when I'm on my last cloth, I'm going to advance that all the way. This goes forward. Pull this forward, that goes over, the spent cloths go on top. Now notice I have a lot of juice in here and also in my collection bowl. So the first thing I'll do is put 2 cloths in here, center it left to right, center it front to back, all the way back it off a little bit. And holding this very, very steady with my thumb, I'm going to pour this juice very, very carefully into the collection container. Very carefully. The first time I did that, I made such a mess and went all over my countertop. Now, because there's a puddle of juice in the bowl, what I'm going to do is take the spent pulp, crush it up into the puddle of juice so that it absorbs that juice that's causing it to puddle in my folding container. And then 3 more scoops. Fold at the back. With my fingers, I'll pull it into a tight package. Upside down, flatten it, set it aside. Advance it all the way when you're on your last cloth. And continue in that same rhythm. This is a time-saving technique. So 2 scoops go on top of the old pulp, not 3. You don't want this patty to be getting too thick. Later on, I'll put only 1 scoop on once the patty gets thicker and thicker. So flatten that, this goes forward, that goes over, the spent cloths go on top, 2 more cloths in the tray, centered left to right, centered front to back, adjusted if necessary, all the way back, back it off. Remember to keep your eye on the bowl. Now we still have a puddle of juice in the collection container, so I'm going to take the spent pulp, crush it up, put it in the puddle of juice, and this time we'll use 3 scoops. Because we're starting from scratch. Little fold in front, pull it into a tight package. Now I'm going to stop that because it's full, it's almost overflowing. And what I'll do here is I'm not going to throw away this pulp. I'm going to put 2 scoops, not 3, on top of the already spent pulp. Pull that into a tight package. Turn it upside down, flatten it. This goes forward, that goes over. The spent cloths go on top. To prevent this from dripping on my countertop, I'm going to set it back all the way, not a little bit. I want it to be very, very obvious. Because if you do just a little bit, believe me, you're going to damage your tray. So back obvious, let's fill some bottles. Now you'll notice I'm leaving about 10% to fill with filtered water or distilled water. I always like to put a little water in my juice because juice is way too concentrated anyway, especially for a diabetic. So let's make more juice. Now I'm going to put my last 2 cloths in the press. Center, left to right, centered front to back, adjust it if you need to, all the way back it off a little bit. And as I said earlier, what I'm going to do with this spent pulp is I'm going to form it into a tight package and demonstrate how you get over 10% more juice by pressing this on a Whole Health Foundation Premium Model Juicer. And the reason for that is the solid bottom plate on a Whole Health Foundation model can be left up indefinitely. Now watch my folding technique. I'm folding it under to minimize slippage. And we'll do the same thing on all of the spent cloths. Now you'll notice I've repackaged all of the spent pulp into 3 double packets, very, very tight packages. And I'm going to use a measuring beaker to measure how much extra juice we're going to get using a Whole Health Foundation Premium Model Juicer. So this is going right in the center of the tray, and it's very, very important to have it right in the center, all the way back, and this time when I get juice flow, I'm going to back it off. As soon as I get juice flow, I'll back it off a little bit. I don't want it to go up too fast. You don't want this to slip apart, and as soon as I get traction, I advance it all the way. 10 ounces so far. Now we have drops, so I'll back that off, and it looks like we have approximately 16 ounces of juice. So we'll pour that into the collection container and fill more bottles. Now I'm topping off all these bottles with water, filtered water or distilled water. You'll notice how the bottles have a convex curve on the top, and when you cap that off, there is absolutely no oxygen in the bottle whatsoever, and the juice will last over 10 days. Now, of course, you want to make only enough juice to last 5 days. You want to drink it in 5 days or less. That's your best quality juice, but it will last 10 days. Now, as you can see, I've got 5, 10, 11 bottles of juice from this session, and more than one of these bottles was from pressing the spent pulp, so I got more than 10%. I actually probably got around 10 or 12%, including the juice in this glass that we're going to use for a taste test. So let's do a taste test. So here we have another juice, my friends, with an abundance of wild dandelion. Let me give it a taste. Boy, this is delicious. I was expecting it to be a little more bitter because of the dandelion, but it's very, very tasty. I think the baby beets contributed to a more sweet taste. If you'd like to phone me, my phone number is 760-753-0321. My email address is developtrust@cox.net, and my webpage is wholehealthfound.com. I'll see you in the next video.